All right. Hello, everyone. Hey, welcome back. If you've been here before, Veterans Day, KV employees, everybody watching. And hey, this is your first time. I'm glad you made it to us. I'm glad you found us. Everybody, feel free to like, share, comment. Let's get the word out there. Let's talk some VA disability. Hey, as always, I'm Attorney Matthew Lane, VA accredited attorney, here to talk about more VA disability with you. I've got my favorite purple shirt on. Kind of reminds me of the old Matlock. Always wearing the same thing, right? Little sidebar for you. That was one of my favorite shows actually growing up. Was the Matlock there with Andy Griffin? Go figure, right? The attorney who grew up watching Matlock. Perry Mason was pretty good too. I didn't mind him. Hmm. The new Matlock show was pretty good too. Anyhow, if you got anything you want to share, just throw it in the comments. I think it'd be good to get to know everybody a little bit as well. Just say hi, kind of loosen up and break some ice here. But let's get down to it. Let's talk effective dates. So effective dates is we're going to call it robust. This is a huge, huge section of law. I am not going to be able to discuss every piece of effective dates in a short video. There is just no way. We may have to come back to this certain pieces of it anyways, or different other scenarios, benefits that are in the disability realm just to do it some more justice. But I want to give you as much information as I can. In this short video, and a lot of it off the top of my head, I do have, I'll be honest, I got laws and manuals and all kinds of stuff printed out here. I probably won't even be referring to these. I'm going to give you off the top of my head. I did it, I'm trying to decide, honestly, where to start. And by the way, this is not, this is barely probably any of it. It's a fun topic. So what, let's try to make sense of this way. And I want to do this for the VA as well, because I know this is a huge topic. This is something we struggle on from the VA perspective at times. Now, take this as you will, VA. Hey, I'm not here to beat you up. I'm excited because as I make this video, I have actually reviewed some review decisions recently and found that I agree with your findings of effective dates. We've had some complicated ones too. Veterans come at us and go, hey, what do you think about this? And I get some pretty educated veterans back here as well. They're like, hey, what about this? What about that? And that's that. Yeah, you might be onto something. And hey, VA, I'll give you credit. I agree with you after we did extensive research of the file again. We went back through files we reviewed 100 times, it feels like. And we sat here as a team and we all said, hey, what do we think? So I give you credit, VA, on this video here. Effective dates are very hard. Do you get it right all the time? No, I don't think anybody could. But I'll give you credit with some stuff I've seen recently, because I'm not here to just beat you up. You do some decisions really well. You do make some right decisions. So it is greatly appreciated. Again, I try to remember that is the case, especially with so many great people I've worked with in the VA. I know right now I see bad and ugly of the VA, but yeah, there's some good in there. All right, so enough of that. Let's just try to stay on track. I think that's the way my day's been going. I've been kind of all over. Effective dates. Let's talk about the basic rule for compensation. So when we look into the CFR, CFR 3.400, 3.400 is our general kind of starting point, I would say, when we want to talk about effective dates. And I'm not going to give you all the references because we're just going to get crazy if we do. But 3.400 would be your general starting point. We know from that section that the basic rule is termed as the date of claim or the date entitlement arose. I think entitlement arose is a very interesting piece. So that's got some argument and little back and forth on. I might touch it a little bit and I might not. So we'll see how it goes. I do have the printout of the manual in here and how they define it, but I think it still has room for interpretation. And I'm not necessarily fully agreeing with some of the interpretation on it. So I'm going to leave that one alone so I don't start an argument. But basic rule essentially is entitlement arose the date of claim, right? So veterans, let's say you file your VA form 526 EZ for a brand new claim. You've never filed it before. Well, that's likely going to be your date of claim. When everything's granted, that's likely your date of claim. Now, let's put it in this perspective though. Let's say you file this, It's one of those very easy, no-brainer cases. VA says, yep, we agree, we got this right. Let's grant the benefit right away. The decision comes out maybe in 4 or 5 months, 6 months even. You've got the decision, veterans, and it says, hey, granted, effective date is the date you filed the 526EC. Perfect. Basic rule right there. Is that effective dates sound that easy, right? Well, let's add a little twist to it. Veterans, let's say now you got out of service, perhaps, oh, this is gonna be fun as I do this off the top of my head and hope I don't mess up the timeline. Let's say January 1, 2020. You got on a New Year's Day. Who does that? I don't know. Yeah, January 1, 2020, you get out of service, let's say. January 1, 2020, you are discharged from service, you fulfilled your active duty obligations, maybe you did your 2, 3, 4 years, maybe you did more, maybe you retired after 20, whatever it may be, you fulfilled your active duty obligations. January 1, 2020, you're not thinking about it, you're just decided to be moving on with life on the next journey, spend time with your family perhaps, maybe go back home, visit family, go on a vacation, a trip that you always want to do. Well, maybe you want to start school, or the confusion of everything of civilian life has got you wondering about jobs or all kinds of things. I mean, you could have so much going on. But at this point, maybe you're not even thinking about a VA claim. Well, you're under one of your buddies, say 6 months down the road, or even maybe July, we'll say July 3rd of 2020 here. Did I say 2020, January 1, 2020? Or 2021. Anyways, I knew I was gonna do it. Point is, 6 months later, you guys are just gonna get the bloopers today. I think it's just better that way. Just see who I am. Why not? 6 months later, you run into your buddy who says, "Hey, did you file that claim? Did you know you get these benefits?" And you're like, "No," and then he directs you to VA website. You go on the VA website. 1 week later or so, you file your claim. Maybe you filed it. We're just going to say 2020. You filed it July 15th of 2020. Well, VA again happens to get the claim done right away, no problem. Maybe 6 months later down the road. Well, that July date is no longer the effective date, because what happened here is another rule came into play. You veterans who discharged from service and then filed a claim, the formal claim as they call it, say on the 526EZ in this case, within 1 year of your discharge from service, your effective date gets to go back to the day after discharge. That's the basic rule of that one. So we could be down here almost a year and a half later, perhaps, and your claim is coming clear back here to the day after you discharged. So that's another rule that comes into play. Hey, but we're not done there with rules. We got rules for all kinds of stuff. Hey, let's say veterans, you do this. Let's say you do this. Remember now, the first example was a 526EZ. There it was, right? Well, let's say you're not sure what you want to claim yet. You want to gather some more evidence. You want to go get treatment first. You want to focus on that part, which is great. The laws say, hey, we understand, and if you want to provide us with an intent to file, hey, just go on the website, for example, start the claim, indicate the intent to file. System will log it, give the VA a call, fill out the proper forms, send it in. Multiple ways of doing it. But you file this intent to file. You give notice to the VA some proper way that you're going to file a claim. Guess what, veterans? You get 1 year. Now, don't take the whole year. I've seen veterans do this, and this could go bad. You don't forget you filed it. You get the whole year, but don't wait till the day before that year ends and go, oh my goodness, I totally forgot and I need to get a claim filed. I'm not ready. The intent to file may not help you out if that happens. The idea, though, is the rule is the intent to file is here. You got 1 year. You got 1 year. With that 1 year, you file that formal claim at 526. Again, let's just keep it easy. 6 months later. 6 months later. Well, could be 7 months, 8 months, whatever. 6 months later, you file that claim. VA says, yeah, pretty self-explanatory claim. You got everything here. Thank you for that fully developed claim that you put together. Glad you got that treatment and all that records in there for us. Maybe some DBQs, maybe some medical opinions, whatever you were able to get. It's all here. Yeah, let's grant it. So down the road, they grant it. Well, remember the basic rule says back to this this 526 here that you would have filed would be your effective date. But guess what? We got to change the rule. You got an intent to file back here. We've added another rule to the mix. So now, because you filed the 526 within the year of the intent to file, the decision and effective dates that the VA made off that 526 now come back to the date that the intent to file. Now, keep in mind, these are all basics, basic rules. I'm going to give you a lot of basic rules. At some point, somebody might go, well, wait, what if? Yeah, there's always what ifs in law. So work with me here on all the basics. But that's the basic. ITF, 1 year, within 1 year, claim is filed, claim is granted, however long it takes, and it goes back to ITF. Now let's throw that mix in. I can't remember the other rule that we talked about, right? The day after discharge. Well, the interesting part here is let's add that rule back in. Let's say that ITF is now filed within 1 year of your discharge, but your 526 is not. It's out, let's say, a year and a half later from your discharge. They're veterans. And we get the decision. So now the question is, do we go back to the 526 where the formal claim is? Do we go back to the intent to file, or can we go back to that day after you discharged? In that scenario, the ITF held the intent to file. The filing occurred within 1 year of the ITF. The ITF was within 1 year of your date of discharge, and therefore we should be back to the day after discharge. Anybody confused yet? In your head rolling around going, what did he just say? If you gotta rewind me, run through a couple times. But this is one thing that makes these complicated is depends on the scenarios and the facts of your case, veterans. There's a lot there. I was even sitting down, like I said, with my team on some cases, and we were thinking, oh yeah, veterans pointed out a good point. That should be an easy one to figure out. And then we sit there and go, oh wait, but what about this rule and this rule and this rule and this rule and this rule? And by the time we got done, it was like, wow, all right. I think we spent a good, well, I know we spent a good amount of time, but we eventually figured it out. But that's just the point. Even we can sit here and go, oh, well, what about this rule? Oh, did that rule fire off? Well, why did that rule happen here? It's definitely an interesting topic, effective dates. But anyhow, kind of relax you for a little bit there, kind of get, let's reset. So those are some basic rules. Date of claim, ITF, day after discharge. Those are some basics there. Now, let's take this huge scenario even further. We're going to take it to the idea that, say, the VA denies your claim, veterans. They deny. Let's say they erred this time. VA, I'm going to give it a bad guy in this one. They denied this time. Well, you want to go back and you have appeal rights. So what do you have? From the date of being notified of the decision. So keep in mind that decision, again, veterans, as we spoke before, is that piece that's inside of this bundle of letter and enclosures. You can go back and check that video if you like. It was a good video, I feel. That gave some good information about that rating decision. But the idea is the rating decision itself is dated from the date that the in this scenario, the RVSR, the rating specialist, the rating veteran service representative, completed that decision. The day they said they were done and hit finalize in the system, and it shot it out to the next person. All right. Well, now we have to go through another process, though, in what the VA does, and that's to authorize, as I know the term as, the award. Well, this is where you get that notification letter, all the calculations of back pay and double checking of different rules and things. So the letter goes out. So we can say that, depends on how long the VA goes here, but we can say the decision is dated, I don't know, even March 1st of 2025, but the notification letter, as we call it, that comes out, that authorizes everything is dated March 3rd. 2 days later, maybe they were pretty quick on it. We got 2 days later. Well, March 3rd here in this case is your date of notification. So this is the date that we're going to use to determine your 1 year appeal rates. So understand why I point this out is there are times in history where VA has been extremely backlogged and things have not ran nearly as smoothly. And that could happen again at any moment. It's a very big system. It's very robust. So understand that there was times where this decision was made and almost a year later, this authorization letter came out, or this notification letter could have came out. Well, or maybe even after that year, So veterans don't lose your appeal rights because that happens because you're not notified of that decision. So we go off the letter date there, that letter that notifies you of your decision. Now, I'm bringing this up when it comes to effective dates because what we're looking at is now you have 1 year. So your claim is not done at this point. The VA may have denied, but your claim is still, well, technically open. And that's a tough term to use because VA will be like, what do you mean it's open? Or our system shows we closed it out. I'm like, yeah, it does. But from a legal standpoint, it's technically still open. So kind of work with me on the terminology. So it's not really final yet because you have 1 year of appeal rights. Now, let's say you decide, veterans, you want to put in that higher level review, you're going to appeal that decision. And you put that in and you make it within that year mark. Maybe it's even the month after you've been notified. Decision's got to be made. Let's say VA says, hey, you're right. We got that one wrong the first time. Let us fix it. Let's help you out. And VA says, we're going to grant it. Well, now the question is, when's the effective date? Is it the date of claim, the date of that higher level review? Isn't that a date of claim? In this scenario that I'm giving you with limited facts, sure, it is, but it's not the effective date, likely, because we're going to play off another rule in there. Is it going to be the 526 that was filed first? Is it going to be the ITF? Could it be the date again of following discharge? If we use the whole long scenario of following discharge, the ITF, the 526, and now a denial, and now higher level review, and then a grant, boy, we used to do this on like marker boards and stuff. I'm probably confusing the heck out of you not being able to see this, and I apologize. But that date of claim of the higher level review is not the end of it all. We have provisions in the law that says as long as that claim was continuously pursued, the veteran was in continuous pursuit of that claim, which means you filed your appeal within your appeal period before it expired, then that effective date could and likely should, there's definitely some exception to this potentially, but could go back and likely should all the way back in this scenario back to the date that you discharged from service, because all these rules just fired right off. Now, if you only had a 526, you didn't have all the ITF stuff, you didn't have all that, well, continuously pursued would likely come back to the date of claim of 526. So, continuously pursued. Wow. I'm looking at my camera here. I'm looking at the amount of time this went by already, and I feel like I'm talking fast because there's so much to get in here. I can't believe we're already this far in, a little past 18 minutes. But understand that this is a very, very big topic. What I've given you is this weird, drawn out, just potential of only a couple of rules. There's so many more rules in here. So let's see if we can pull a few more out. Let's think about the idea, veterans, that you're entitled also to additional monies for dependents, spouses, children, for example. Now, the other criteria for that is you got to be 30% or more service connected, is for the compensation side. We're going to use the compensation side on this one. So let's say you file your 526. You file your 526. You file all your dependency stuff to go with it. Maybe you file a 686C as well in there, or whatever you need to file to identify you got dependents. Now you give all the dependency information. Let's say at this claim, that's the point. Point is when you file your new claim here or your first claim, all the dependency information is in there. Let's just say it's a 526. Let's leave off all that other rule in there. You get granted with 30% or higher right away veterans, and let's say that happens. When that happens, and you've got all this documentation in here of your dependents, and the VA doesn't need any more information. So let's say you put down your spouse, you put down your couple of kids here. Maybe you got a son and a daughter. At this point, VA should go back and add your dependents automatically to the date that of the effective date of that 30%. And that's that first decision that happened right away. Remember, we're back on the date of claim 526 if we ignore all the other ITF and day after service stuff. So you should have an effective date for your dependents on the same day of that claim. Now, let's say you didn't provide that information. Well, maybe you don't hit 30% right away. Maybe you hit it later on down the road. So let's say you hit 30% or more later down the road, and you don't have that information on record. Well, VA is going to ask you, should be asking you for that information, veterans, and saying here, make sure you fill one of these forms out. Typically, it's 6860. You do that, as I recall, within the year of reaching that 30% mark, and as long as you were like married, say for your spouse, and your kids were born, for example, prior to hitting that 30%, well, you should go back on the effective date to that point so that you reached 30%. If you weren't married at the time, you married, say, a year down the road after you reached 30% veterans, then I believe it would be then the date you may get married. If you file that claim within a year of getting married. So there's definitely a lot of different circumstances there and some different fact patterns, and that's very, very basic. We got stepchildren in there. We got parent dependency in there. We got all kinds of different things that could change kind of how the effective date on dependency would work. So, but just know it's kind of a basic rule. You got to be 30% or more. Usually that's about the mark. If all the information is received within a specific amount of time, or it's the date the information is received, or it's the date the event occurred, the birth of the child, the marriage of your spouse, depending on kind of when everything was filed. So those get kind of messy too, but yeah, just know there's a bunch of effective date issues there. Hey, here's another popular one. We're going to go off the rails a little bit further for this one. Just a simple, basic overview of it, because this could be a fairly large one too. What if the VA proposes to reduce a claim on you, veterans, and it's going to affect your overall combined evaluation? It's going to bring it down. Well, you got due process that kicks in. Your Fifth Amendment kicks in. So you're going to get this proposal letter first, and you're going to get 60 days to contest, essentially, not really appeal, but contest the proposal and say why the proposal is wrong. Now you can do that with a hearing, you can do that with additional evidence, and so forth. Well, there's no effective date yet been assigned to the reduction as it's a proposal. Now, let's say for some reason the VA has decided that the proposal is going to continue on. There's no change in their proposal. They're going to stick to it, and they're going to now issue you that decision that says we have reduced your benefits. Underneath the laws, typically that reduction will not occur like instantly. It's not going to come backwards in time. The idea that it was always taught to me is the VA should not be negatively impacting the veteran, especially financially. So you're going to get, according to law, another 60 days following the date of that decision, essentially. But it's like I think it's like a first of the month or last of the month date kind of thing there. So understand that even in reductions, there's different effective date rules. So you may have your proposal piece that has some time on it, and then when that decision's made, if it's actually proposal is turned into a for sure thing, then you have likely another 60 days behind that as well for an effective date. And I think it was the first of the month. Can't remember off my head. So if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please do, because I don't want to give bad information. I know I had it in front of me because I figured I would probably forget that by the time I went through everything for you there. So I do apologize if that's incorrect. Too many laws. I got my papers all over the place. It's like I dropped them on the floor and picked them back up. I don't know. No, I didn't do that, but there's that idea there. Let's do one more. This video's gone quite a way, so let's do one more here. Maybe well, let's do two more. Another popular one is like a clear and unmistakable error. Let's say we make that claim, we win that claim. What that really is saying that the evidence at the time and the laws at the time would have created a grant of benefit, not denied it during that time. where the veteran, you happen to be denied, unfortunately. If this is the case, we're looking at effective dates that would generally go all the way back to apply. See, now this is where we get crazy, because now we're like, okay, where was the date of claim? Where was this? Where was that? Was there an intent to file? Did that exist at the time? Were we in the realm of an informal claim that doesn't exist anymore? I mean, well, so we start looking at other rules in there, but I would say typically you're going to likely find maybe about the date of claim of that claim when the denial was incorrectly completed. You'd be on the date of claim, likely. But again, as you've seen, my head immediately went, oh, what about this rule? What about that rule? What about that? So this is what makes effective dates so fun. Just a joy to be around. Hey, one more. Let's do one more. What was I going to do? One more. Oh, that's what I was going to do. Hey, so here's an interesting one that I argue all the time. VA, I'm going to hopefully perk your ears if you're still sticking around with me, because I'm fascinated by this one. There's black and white letters on these sheets. The law does have some black and white letters. I want you to understand the law is not clearly black and white. From my perspective, from my training, my education, my experience, the law is not black and white. Why? Because there's typically another rule that can counter the rule that you're looking at on paper, or there's an exception to this rule that you're looking at that looks so black and white. And I'm going to put it this way because I feel that VA, you get trained a lot in the idea that there is a black and white on this. And so I want to help you out with this one. Supplemental claims. So I see a lot. The black and white underneath the supplemental claim section of the CFR, I agree, says the effective date is the date that the supplemental claim is received. However, we have to remember again, all these other provisions of law. That rule does not negate all the other rules. So remember, we talked about continuous prosecution. This could go back further because a supplemental claim, if within a year, is technically an appeal. So we could go back to the 526 date. We could go back to an ITF. We could go back to perhaps even where facts found that I'm trying to avoid because of just the complexity of that one right now for you. But that's the idea. Just because the black and white letter rule says effective date is this, understand there's more rules. More rules that could take you further back. You've got to look for clear unmistakable errors still. Maybe that takes you all the way back. We can't ignore those rules there. And I know there's a bunch more in here, but it's the basic concept. I see it all the time, so I did want to point it out. But I think this is a training issue. I remember training and mentoring many RVSRs and VSRs, and that was kind of a concept there. Like, well, what's the black and white? Well, black and white is it says here, but is that where we stop? No, we should not. This provision over here counters this provision. So just keep that in mind. Effective dates could be another rule could pop up somewhere, and there it is. You know, I did say one more. There is another one I do want to do really quick here. And I so apologize for this video going on for so long. But like I said, effective dates are so huge. I'm likely not scratching the surface at all on this, but I want to get a lot of information to you. There's a change of law one out there. Veterans, if, for example, PACT Act was a change of law, you get a change of law that comes around, say, such as the PACT Act. We call it liberalizing law. The effective date now could go back to the date of that law change. Now, I got some more arguments for plenty of effective date issues that are involved in this scenario, but the basic level of it all is that you have 1 year to file from a date of law change. So when that PACT Act came out, veterans, you had 1 year to file. Well, you didn't just have 1 year to file. You had 1 year to file to meet an effective date that would go back instead of from the date of claim. Remember, we had ITFs, we had service, discharge from service that could take the general rule from date of claim all the way back. Well, liberalizing the law or changing the laws do the same thing. They take that black and white lettering of date of claim and they move the effective date back. So liberalizing law or change of law, such as the PACT Act, when that occurs, veterans, we got 1 year. If you want to keep the effective date, the date that law changed, you have 1 year to file that claim. File that claim within a year, it gets granted, all the good stuff, we end up back on the date the law changed. Now, if I recall the provision correctly, if you're past that 1 year, it's not the end of the world. You just won't likely be able to come back to that date the law changed. You could still come back potentially 1 year prior still, but it won't be all the way back. But anyhow, again, bunch of other rules and all kinds of scenarios and different facts and just whatever the evidence shows. So I'll end there for now. I'm excited to actually be talking about this one because I'll tell you, I've been in front of this camera, I don't know how many times wanting to do this topic and just went, where do I start? This is so much information. And the last thing I want to do is leave you going, what did he say? And I have a feeling I may have done that to you, so I apologize. But effective dates, there you go. We're going to call this our effective date video. Likely we'll come down and we'll talk about more effective dates. It's a huge topic. It's one of the more complicated things that VA, I see you do well at a lot of times, and you struggle at as well, but I understand. Like I said, I got the paperwork I have here, the laws I printed off, the manual references. This doesn't even scratch the surface. The things we talked about here today doesn't even scratch the surface. There are so many effective date rules out there, so many different scenarios, different pieces of evidence can change things too. So just know it's a complicated section. So we worked through it though, but those are a lot of the basics. At least I think if you know those, you'll have a decent start and handle of effective dates when determining if those are correct. Veterans of VA, both. When you look at those decisions. All right, I'm gonna leave you guys with that. I'm gonna leave everybody with that. I appreciate you again for being here and watching the video. If you're interested in anything else, VA disability wise, we're gonna keep doing this. Right now, I schedule videos every Tuesday. I try to keep it around a certain hour. Sometimes I get busy, tech issues, all that good stuff, and it gets out a little late. But we try to stay on Tuesdays there. But if there are topics you do want me to talk about, leave them in the comments again. Like I said, I enjoyed the last one I had. Got a chance to do a little research, show off a little bit of those skills, and point out things that probably most people had no idea was even publicly out there. So I enjoy doing that. I want to be able to cater to what everybody wants to know as much as I can. But if you don't, hey, don't worry. I got plenty of laws back here. We'll chat. All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday. Have a wonderful evening, day.